Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mishnapad Paramahansa, Bhagavad-Acharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad's Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Bhagavad-Acharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad's Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Ishapanachad Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Now there is another book here in the form of this iPad. Does anyone want to use it? Yeah, well let me just, oh, he's got a code on here. Open it up. It's Damodar's. Sorry. Yeah, take another copy. Take two. One for Ramapati too. I think he's got his own little pad there. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 25th day of February, 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Ishopanishad, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're going to be starting with the introduction, entitled Teachings of the Vedas. We probably won't get through this whole thing this morning, but give it a start. This was delivered as a lecture by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada on October 6, 1969, at Conway Hall in London. Ladies and gentlemen, today's subject matter is the teachings of the Vedas. What are the Vedas? The Sanskrit verbal root of Veda can be interpreted variously, but the purport is finally one. I'm going to put that on pause. Can you lower the volume just a bit for me? It's a bit much. Thank you. Veda means knowledge. Any knowledge you accept is Veda, for the teachings of the Vedas are the original knowledge. In the conditioned state, our knowledge is subjected to many deficiencies. The difference between a conditioned soul and a liberated soul is that the conditioned soul has 4 kinds of defects. The first defect is that he must commit mistakes. For example, in our country, Mahatma Gandhi was considered to be a very great personality, but he committed many mistakes. Even at the last stage of his life, his assistant warned Mahatma Gandhi, "Don't go to the New Delhi meeting. I have some friends, and I have heard there is danger. But he did not hear. He persisted in going and was killed. Even great personalities like Mahatma Gandhi, President Kennedy, there are so many of them, make mistakes. To err is human. This is one defect of the conditioned soul. Another defect, to be illusioned. Illusion means to accept something which is not. Maya. Maya means what is not. Everyone is accepting the body as the self. If I ask you what you are, you will say, I am Mr. John. I am a rich man. I am this, I am that. All these are bodily identifications. But you are not this body. This is illusion. The third defect is the cheating propensity. Everyone has the propensity to cheat others. Although a person is fool number one, he poses himself as very intelligent. Although it is already pointed out that he is in illusion and makes mistakes, he will theorize, I think this is this is this. But he does not even know his own position. He writes books of philosophy, although he is defective. That is his disease. That is cheating. Lastly, our senses are imperfect. We are very proud of our eyes. Often someone will challenge, can you show me God? But do you have the eyes to see God? You will never see if you haven't the eyes. If immediately the room becomes dark, you cannot even see your hands. So what power do you have to see? We cannot, therefore, expect knowledge or Veda with these imperfect senses. With all these deficiencies, in conditioned life, we cannot give perfect knowledge to anyone, nor are we ourselves perfect. Therefore, we accept the Vedas as they are. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is a little of what we call epistemology. You know what epistemology is? Epistemology is the science of how we know things. And it's a very important part of philosophy. Philosophy is generally looking for ultimate causes, looking for the truth, looking for a ground of being, a ground of morality and things like that. Now all of these subject matters are kind of mysterious to the ordinary person. If I'm looking for where everything came from, well, how am I going to find it with my senses, or even my expanded senses? Like we have our eyes, but then we have microscopes, and we have telescopes to make them more efficient. But no matter how much you are able to refine the telescope or the microscope, it's still based on your imperfect vision. And any scientist will tell you, yes, we found out a lot by the electron microscope. I remember when they came out with that in the early 60s, I think, when I was in school, high school. It says, oh, suddenly we find out that it's not just protons and neutrons and electrons. There are also the muons and the quarks and all this whole bunch of subatomic particles that they didn't know about because they couldn't see them. So, but still, the scientists say, yeah, but there's still a lot that we don't know. We have to discover this, discover that, discover. So I like to think of these in order, because of this particular order, because it kind of makes a certain logic out of it. So our senses are imperfect. So we look around in the world, not us, we consult other people with imperfect senses who've written books and know more than we do, and we come to certain conclusions. And unfortunately, actually, science has shown, historical science, that those conclusions are often wrong. What is it? Oh yeah, the example, I made a slideshow of this once, I did a little research. Aristotle, he's highly revered as one of the great philosophers of ancient Greece, you know, his writings are read. But he had the idea, from what he could figure out, that the brain, that organ of brain, because, you know, you can always, when someone dies, they dissect, even in the ancient days, and they come up with these organs, and that brain, he thought it was simply an organ to cool the blood. That was his conclusion from what he could figure out. Big mistake, right? But that's all he could figure out with his present senses and his intelligence. So that's an illusion. Then when he writes books and teaches that, it becomes cheating. Everyone knows our senses are limited, But he's come to this conclusion, and he's assuming that that's the only way we can figure anything out. That's what the scientists assume, is that the only real way of knowing is the scientific method. Observation, then you make a hypothesis, and you test it again and again, and if it works out, it seems to be confirmed, then you say, okay, this is the conclusion. But they still call those theories, meaning that, well, we're not really sure 100%, but this is the best we can come up with at the moment, you know. So obviously, this kind of means of investigation, so you've got the four there. You got your imperfect senses. The classic case of being illusion is, as Prabhupada mentions here, to think you're this body. Well, if you don't have any other higher source of information, you have to think of that. Just like a child. Of course the child is completely identified with the body. The mother is, you know, feeding him and giving him name, you know, the name, and everything is body, body, body. So naturally everyone thinks they're the body. You can't come to another conclusion without some higher source of knowledge. That's the point. So on the basis of that illusion that I am the body, which I've gotten from my senses and everybody else's also illusion telling me, then I live my life, but the whole life is based on a fallacy. So it's frustrating. Material life is really just one frustration after another. It's putting all your energy into the false idea that I'm this body, and that means I'm a certain color, I'm a certain age, I belong to a certain place, because my body was born there. So the whole thing is this vast edifice based on fallacy. And so naturally, it's what is it? Moghasha, Mogha Karmana. All of your activities, all of your hopes come to naught. That's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, for those who have taken shelter of this external energy. So in perfect senses, we become illusioned. We make mistakes, and those mistakes kind of accrue into a hard illusion, because everyone else is making the same mistake. They're the bodies. So everyone is in this illusion. And then the illusion is taught as the truth, and that's cheating. So those four defects have to be there. So then Prabhupada ends this with, therefore we accept the Vedas as they are. And what's, I think he'll explain here, and we'll read on, is that the Vedas have a transcendental source. The whole point is that Krishna breathes out the Vedas. In other words, they're coming from God, and therefore they're infallible. Therefore, we can rely on them for knowledge that to us seems like it's fantastical, but it's coming from a higher source. And so we accept it, and when we actually act on the basis of knowledge, then we experience more of the transcendental things that we can't experience with our ordinary senses. That's actually the process of devotional service, and Prabhupada will expand on that. So now Prabhupada is defending the Vedas. Here he calls it this. What are the Vedas? Well, first he says what they're not. They're not products of these imperfect senses and making mistakes. It's beyond that. So now Prabhupada goes on. You may call the Vedas Hindu, but Hindu is a foreign name. We are not Hindus. Our real identification is Varnashram. Varnashram denotes the followers of the Vedas, those who accept the human society in 8 divisions of Varna and Ashram. There are 4 divisions of society and 4 divisions of spiritual life. This is called Varnashram. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, these divisions are everywhere because they are created by God. The divisions of society, this is the social orders, in other words, what you do, your activities, are Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, professions. Brahman refers to the very intelligent class of men, those who know what is Brahman. Similarly, the Kshatriyas, the administrator group, are the next intelligent class of men. Then the Vaishyas, the mercantile group. These natural classifications are found everywhere. This is the Vedic principle, and we accept it. Now, he doesn't mention here, I think, the Shudras. The Shudras are the manual laborers. These natural are found everywhere. This is the Vedic principle, and we accept it. Vedic principles are accepted as axiomatic truth, for there cannot be any mistake. That is acceptance. For instance, in India, cow dung is accepted as pure, and yet cow dung is the stool of an animal. In one place, you'll find the Vedic injunction that if you touch stool, you have to take a bath immediately. But in another place, it is said that the stool of a cow is pure. If you smear cow dung in an impure place, that place becomes pure. With our ordinary sense, we can argue, this is contradictory. Actually, it is contradictory from the ordinary point of view, but it is not false. It is fact. In Calcutta, a very prominent scientist and doctor analyzed cow dung and found that it contains all antiseptic properties. In India, if one person tells another, "You must do this," the other party may say, "What do you mean? Is this a Vedic injunction that I have to follow you without any argument?" Vedic injunctions cannot be interpreted, but ultimately, if you carefully study why these injunctions are there, you will find that they are all correct. The Vedas are not compilations of human knowledge. Vedic knowledge comes from the spiritual world, from Lord Krishna. Another name for the Vedas is Shruti. Shruti refers to that knowledge which is acquired by hearing. It is not experimental knowledge. Shruti is considered to be like a mother. We take so much knowledge from our mother. For example, if you want to know who your father is, who can answer you? Your mother. If your mother says, "Here is your father," you have to accept it. It is not possible to experiment to find out whether he is your father. So today, of course, whenever I hear this or read this, yeah, but we got the DNA tests now, paternal tests. So there is another source. But in ordinary life, this is how you find out who your father is. Similarly, if you want to know something beyond your experience, beyond your experimental knowledge, beyond the activities of the senses, then you have to accept the Vedas. There is no question of experimenting. It has already been experimented. It is already settled. The version of the mother, for instance, has to be accepted as truth. There is no other way. So just to give you a little reference here, near the beginning of Bhagavatam, in the second chapter of the first canto, there's a question from the sages who are listening to the Bhagavatam. What is the ultimate Dharma? Whereby the soul, people can become actually pleased and happy and self-fulfilled. And so Sutta Goswami answers this very famous passage. He begins by defining what the supreme Dharma is. Savai pungsang paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahaitukya pradayata yatma suprasidati. So the ultimate Dharma, no matter where you are on earth or what time you live, what planet you live on, is bhakti, is that which gives rise to pure bhakti. Sabhapang paro dharma yato bhaktir adhokshaje. Unto whom adhokshaja? Now this word adhokshaja is directly pertinent to, it's a name for Krishna, is pertinent to the discussion here. Because adhokshaja, and you'll often find this name used when you're talking about the first stages of bhakti, when you're just beginning. Why? Because you don't have any realization then. You're simply acting on faith. The first time you pick up the bees or enter the kirtan or decide I'm going to practice bhakti yoga, you have you really can't rely on your senses for this. You have to rely on higher authority. And so this name for Krishna is made of three elements: adha, aksha, and ja. And the way you combine them in Sanskrit becomes adhokshaja. So the word ja is short for janma, a give birth to, okay, or generate. It's cognate, generate. So akshaja, aksha means eyes, or in a broader sense, all of our regular senses by which we gather knowledge. The eyes, the ears, everything. So there's a certain kind of knowledge that's generated from that, direct perception. Pratyaksha it's called, it means direct perception. But we've just read that direct perception is often faulty. The classic example, the child looks up in the sky, he sees the moon, and he thinks it's some nice little coin, shining coin that the mother can get. Please get me the moon, mother. Can I have that? Because it looks this big. But we know that it's much bigger, right? The sun is many millions of times bigger. So, but still it looks small. So our senses are totally unreliable for any firm knowledge, especially by things such as that are beyond the realm of the senses. So Ada means down. So Adokshaja means he who defeats or eclipses or transcends knowledge gained by the senses. That's a name for God. It doesn't give you any information of his Leela and Vrindavan or anything like that. But it gives you an important understanding that God is beyond our ability to know directly. Therefore, we need a source of information that's beyond these four defects. And that's Krishna himself, or the books that are written, that basically are his instructions, like Bhagavad Gita, or that are given to us by those who are beyond the four defects And therefore, this is such a good word for us, we can't let it be corrupted by how it's been corrupted. And therefore, channeling this absolute knowledge that Krishna is giving. Prabhupada would often he wouldn't use that phrase, but he said, I'm not perfect, I'm imperfect, I have these 4 defects. But because I'm simply repeating Krishna's knowledge as it is, therefore the teaching is perfect. And I'm an imperfect vehicle, but I'm delivering perfect knowledge. That's the idea. And if we accept it, then we can progress. So this idea of the mother, the Vedas are considered to be the mother. And Brahma is called the grandfather, the forefather, because he was the first to be instructed in the Vedic knowledge. We read in the Bhagavatam, the first verse, Janmad yasya tonvayada tatatastarteshu bhigyasurat Tene Brahma Vada Yaadi Kaviye. Now here you might think the word Brahma is Brahma, but it's not. You have to watch for that long A at the end. Brahma here means the Vedas. That's another word for the Vedas, Brahma. By him, Tene Brahma, Vridha, in the heart, Adi Kaviye, this knowledge of the Vedas was instilled into the heart of the original wise men. Adi Kavi. Kavi means a poet or a wise man. So Brahma received the knowledge in his heart through the transmission, sometimes said through the flute. But basically he was infused with that knowledge in his heart because Krishna is in the heart. So he was the first learned being, Adi Kaviye. He received this Vedic knowledge and imparted it to Narada, his son, and other disciples and sons, and they also distributed it to their disciples. In this way, the Vedic knowledge comes down by disciplic succession. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that Vedic knowledge is understood in this way. If you make experimental endeavor, you come to the same conclusion, but just to save time, you should accept. If you want to know who your father is, and if you accept your mother as the authority, then whatever she says can be accepted without argument. There are 3 kinds of evidence, pratyaksha, anuman, and shabda. Pratyaksha means direct evidence. Direct evidence is not very good because our senses are not perfect. We are seeing the sun daily, and it appears to us just like a small disk, but is actually far, far larger than many planets. Of what value is this seeing? Therefore, we have to read books, then we can understand about the sun. So direct experience is not perfect. Then there is anuman, inductive knowledge. It may be like this, hypothesis. For instance, Darwin's theory says that it may be like this, it may be like that. But that is not science. That is a suggestion, and it is also not perfect. But if you receive the knowledge from the authoritative sources, that is perfect. If you receive a program guide from the radio station authorities, you accept it. You don't deny it. You don't have to make an experiment because it is received from the authoritative sources. Vedic knowledge is called Shabda Praman. Praman means evidence. Another name is Shruti. Shruti means that this knowledge has to be received simply by oral reception. The Vedas instruct that in order to understand transcendental knowledge, we have to hear from the authority. Transcendental knowledge is knowledge from beyond this universe. Within this universe is material knowledge, and beyond this universe is transcendental knowledge. We cannot even go to the end of the universe, so how can we go to the spiritual world? Thus, to acquire full knowledge is impossible. There is a spiritual sky. There is another nature, which is beyond manifestation and non-manifestation. But how will you know that there is a sky where the planets and inhabitants are eternal? Now, Prabhupada is quoting a verse here from the Bhagavad Gita. Now, if you notice that in the 8th chapter describes the spiritual world a little bit. Parastasmat bhavano vyakto vyaktat sanatana. Beyond the material world, transcendental to this world, is the spiritual world, which is beyond this manifestation and unmanifestation. The material world is sometimes manifest and then times unmanifest. It always exists. The material energy always exists, but sometimes it's in like a dormant state, packed up, in the body of Mahavishnu. But then it comes out and eventually it produces all the varieties that we see here. But beyond this manifestation and non-manifestation is the spiritual world, which is always manifest. It never becomes unmanifest. That's what he's quoting here. How will you know that there is a sky where the planets and inhabitants are eternal? All this knowledge is there, but how will you make experiments? It is not possible. Therefore, you have to take the assistance of the Vedas. This is called Vedic knowledge. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we are accepting knowledge from the highest authority, Krishna. Krishna is accepted as the highest authority by all classes of men. I am speaking first of the two classes of Transcendentalists. One class of Transcendentalists is called impersonalistic, Mayavadi. They are generally known as Vedantists, led by Shankaracharya. And there is another class of Transcendentalists called Vaishnavas, like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami. Both the Shankara Sampradaya and the Vaishnava Sampradaya have accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shankaracharya is supposed to be an impersonalist who preached impersonalism, impersonal Brahman. But it is a fact that he is a covered personalist. In his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, he wrote, Prabhupada always quoted, Narayana Payo Vyaktat. Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beyond this cosmic manifestation. And then again he confirmed, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, is Krishna. He has come as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. He, Shankaracharya, particularly mentioned the names of his father and mother. So Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by all Transcendentalists. There is no doubt about it. Our source of knowledge in Krishna consciousness is the Bhagavad Gita, which comes directly from Krishna. We have published Bhagavad Gita as it is, because we accept Krishna as he is speaking, without any interpretation. That is Vedic knowledge. Since the Vedic knowledge is pure, we accept it. Whatever Krishna says, we accept. This is Krishna consciousness. This saves much time. If you accept the right authority or source of knowledge, then you save much time. For example, there are two systems of knowledge in the material world, inductive and deductive. From deductive, you accept that man is mortal. Your father says man is mortal. Your sister says man is mortal. Everyone says man is mortal. But you do not experiment. You accept it as a fact that man is mortal. If you want to research to find out whether man is mortal, you have to study each and every man. And you may come to think that there may be some man who is not dying, but you have not seen him yet. So in this way, your research will never be finished. In Sanskrit, this process is called aroha, the ascending process. If you want to attain knowledge by any personal endeavor, by exercising your imperfect senses, you will never come to the right conclusions. That is not possible. So, Prabhupada is hammering home this point that even on the material plane, there are certain things that we can't know without authority. I mean, we accept it all the time. How many of you have been to Bhutan? The only possible answer, you might have been to Bhutan. So even someone who's born in India has not been to Bhutan, which is on the border of India, right, in the northwest. But I've seen pictures of Bhutan. They have one of the largest books in the world there. I don't know if you know that. I forget what the book is. It's about Bhutan, and a big picture book. So they decided, well, we have to have some claim to fame. So they made this huge book. It's like half the size of this room. You know, you have to need the crane to turn the pages. How do I know that? I didn't see the book. I didn't see Bhutan, but I saw a magazine article, and this is years ago. Okay, so that's just one example. But all the time we're accepting things like that. Not just that who is our father, but we can't live our life without accepting the truth. This is called faith and confidence. Now, on the material plane, that faith is oftentimes betrayed. This is what advertising is. Advertising is institutionalized cheating. No matter what you buy, they're advertising this, whatever it may be, like some beer or something, right? So the whole idea is they only got your attention for a few seconds. So chances are pretty high they're going to inject some kind of sex thing in there, right? Some overtone, something they'll suggest it because they know that's universally attractive. Get your attention. And then they have a few seconds to try to convince you that this will make you happy, happier than you are now. They want to inject the desire seed into your heart, so the next time, now you're going to go around your business and forget about all that, the beer and everything else, the billboard. But the next time it comes around that you're looking for beer, and most of the guys are, that idea will come. Oh, why don't I buy this beer? Because it'll make me happy. You probably forgot why. This is the subtle idea of advertising. They've got it down to a science. So our consciousness is constantly being bombarded by all of this. Plus, Maya Devi herself is the best advertiser. She's got it down to the ultimate science. You want, sex, and she presents some object that is just suitable for you. And that's not human beings. Every species have its opposite. The beautiful hog, the beautiful dog, and some dogs' eyes, some hog's eyes. That particular configuration of matter is attractive, right? But it's fool's gold. You may enjoy some fleeting happiness, but it will not give you that lasting pleasure that the soul is looking for. And what it does is really implant a strong desire seed to do it again and again and again, and you die with that desire and you get another body. Now, in the animal kingdom, they come up gradually to the human society. But here we've got all our senses on fire. We have the intelligence to produce all the even more wonderful things. But it's a huge, huge illusion. It's cheating. It's all, that's what Maya does. Maya Devi, she tricks you. And that's her job. It's a thankless task. So, the ascending process, aroha, keeps us in this material world because we don't have any access to the transcendental knowledge that can free us. So now, if you want to attain knowledge by any personal endeavor by exercising imperfect senses, you will never come to the right conclusion. That is not possible. Now, it probably gets a little lyrical here. There is a statement in the Brahma Samhita: just ride on the airplane which runs at the speed of mind. Our material airplanes can run 2,000 miles per hour. But what is the speed of mind? I think he's referring to Pantastukodishadavatsadasam Vayotapi Manaso Munibungavanam. But all of these yogis who are riding on the mind and drilling the respiration, even they, without proper access, they can't understand the absolute truth either. That's which is ultimately Krishna. They can't understand even the tip of the toe of Krishna by all of these efforts. Only bhakti, he says. You are sitting at home. You immediately think of India, say 10,000 miles away, and at once it is in your home. In other words, your mind travels there. Your mind has gone there. The mind's speed is so swift. Therefore it is stated, if you travel at this speed for millions of years, you'll find that the spiritual sky is unlimited. It is not possible even to approach it. Abhachintya, it says, what is it? Pantastu koti shadavatsara samragamyo. That vatsara is the years, right? Koti. Pantastu koti, 10 million years. Some pantastu koti shadavatsara samragamyo. Vayoratavi manaso munipungavanam. Munipungavana means the leading yogis. Pungava, believe it or not, it comes from the word for cow. Pungava. Gava is cow, and pun means man. So it's a bull. Bull is said to be the leader of the cows. Even the Pungavas, the leaders of the munis, of the yogis, what does it say? Pungamanam. Sopyasti yat papadasimnya vachincha tattve. They can't approach the tip of Krishna's lotus feet, which is beyond and inconceivable. Only by bhakti, not by these artificial means. So if you travel at this speed for millions of years, you'll find the spiritual sky is unlimited. It's not possible even to approach it. Therefore, the Vedic injunction is that one must approach, the word compulsory is used, a bona fide spiritual master. And what is the qualification of a spiritual master? He is one who has rightly heard the Vedic message from the right source. And he must practically be firmly established in Brahman. These are the two qualities he must have, otherwise he's not bona fide. You know the verse? Tasmad gurum babadjeta jigyashu shreya uttamam shabde padejanishnam brahman upashamashanam. Tasmad gurum jigyashu shreya. Or maybe he's thinking of that. How's it go? You know this one, the other one. Gachanti. Tadvijnanatam sugudum me vabhigatchet. Samat prani shrotriyam brahmanishtam. This is the verse, probably. This is the one he's referring to here. Tadvijnanartam. If your goal is to get realized knowledge of tat, meaning he's referring to of the supreme absolute truth. Vijnanartam. Sogurum eva abhigachet. This is abhigachet is the imperative. Then you have to approach the guru. And what's the qualities? Now, first, how to approach? Samat pani. This is a symbolic, metaphorical. Means with firewood in your hand. In other words, very humbly. You have to take a humble position. You can go and get the firewood. You're in an ashram. So samat pani. In other words, you have to surrender. And what's the quality? Shotriyam brahmanishram. He has heard, firmly established in Brahman, and he has heard the Vedic message, and brahmanishtam, firmly established in Brahman, which means Krishna. So then we'll conclude in a few minutes here. This Krishna conscious movement is completely authorized from Vedic principles. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the actual aim of Vedic research is to find out Krishna. Vedas sarva ahameva Veda. In the Brahma Samhita, it is also stated, Krishna, Govinda, has innumerable forms, but they are all one. They are not like our forms, which are fallible. His form is infallible. Now, Prabhupada gave this word a new meaning. He's infallible, but it means he can't fall. We're fallible. We fall. We fall under the control of Maya. But Krishna can't fall under the control of Maya because Maya is under his control. My form has a beginning, but his form has no beginning. It is ananta, endless. And his form, so many multiforms, has no end. My form is sitting here and not in my apartment. You are sitting there and not in your apartment. There meaning he's pointing to them in the audience. But Krishna can be everywhere at one time. He can sit in Goloka, Vrindavan, and at the same time he is sitting everywhere, all-pervading. Goloka eva nivasattikilatma bhuta. He is original, the oldest, but whenever you look at a picture of Krishna, you'll find a young boy 15 or 20 years old. You will never find an old man. You have seen pictures of Krishna as a charioteer from the Bhagavad Gita. At that time he was not less than 100 years old. He had great-grandchildren, but he looked just like a boy, Krishna. Krishna, God, never becomes old. That is his supreme power. And if you want to search out Krishna by studying the Vedic literature, then you will be baffled. It may be possible, but it is very difficult. But you can very easily learn about him from his devotee. His devotee can deliver him to you. Here he is, take him. That is the potency of Krishna consciousness. Now it seems like it's a little contradictory because he says, if you want to search out Krishna by studying Vedic literature, then you may be baffled. Well, I thought he just said that the Vedic literature, the Vedas, is the only place where you find this knowledge. But the point is, you have to receive the Vedas, or Vedic literature, from the right source, the realized source. Otherwise, even with all of the Vedic literature, you'll be baffled. I remember distinctly, I like to give this example, this was before I met the devotees. I was searching, as many were in the 60s, late 60s. And so I read this book, that book, then I went to a library somewhere, and there was the Upanishads. There was a series of thick books, all in green, I didn't know which one to pick out. I think I borrowed one of them and read part of it. But I had no idea what the conclusion of the book was or what I was supposed to do. And I even read Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita in and of itself is a small book. There's only 700 sentences there. So it was a very slim volume. There wasn't much commentary, if any. And after reading that book, it was, some interesting ideas, transmigration of the soul and everything, but I had no idea what I was supposed to do because I didn't receive it from the right source, you see. So that's why Prabhupada says one has to associate with the devotees. You can very easily learn about him from his devotee. His devotee can deliver him to you. Here he is, take him. That is the potency of Krishna's devotees. Okay, so this is a long introduction, and we'll continue this next Monday. And then we'll launch into the Ishopanishad. Any comments, questions on these points? Okay. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.